are some emotional effects that mental health can have on your body, and how do we study these effects?
So the different effects that we can see on the body from emotions can range from a variety of things. So one is that stress really impacts a certain cascade of hormones in our body that starts with our pituitary gland in our brain, and that affects other organs, including our thyroid and our adrenal glands. So when stress is happening or people are really emotionally challenged, that whole system gets activated, and that's where people often experience this heightened stress feeling. They can feel sometimes like, perhaps their heart is racing, perhaps they just have a lot of the adrenaline going that's kind of keeping them moving. But that can also lead to things like fatigue or, people just feeling kind of constantly exhausted from less intense stressors. So that's some of it. And then again, I think it really depends on the person, kind of how they experience. For some people, their emotional being and the way that their body kind of manifests emotions can vary from person to person. But we can study it by monitoring or evaluating some of these different hormones that are released in times of stress. And then we can also do certain types of imaging or scans where we look at, again, how different parts of the body might be activated or be triggered when there's some of these stress hormones that are active in the system.
So some emotional effects could be isolation. So a lot of kiddos will isolate themselves. A behavior change. So behavior changes that are not normal to their normal behavior, I guess. And so that's isolation. So things that they used to like to do, maybe they're not doing anymore. Or they used to hang out with their family and be present with their family, and now they're hanging out in their room all the time, not wanting to socialize with their family, their peers, things like that. And a lot of the times that's very normal developmental type behavior for that child. So I think it's really important that we have to check ourselves as adults to educate ourselves also. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves, to know the difference between, okay, this child's exhibiting this, what does that look like? Is this a normal, what is their age? Taking age into consideration, gender into consideration. How do they identify? What's going on in their lives? Asking questions. So I just wanted to bring attention to that, that now that, we're in a pandemic and kids are returning back to schools, I think it's important for us as adults, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't make assumptions and based off our biases to understand children. And I think, it comes back down to really listening to the kiddos. And seeing where they're at and what's going on in their home environment too. That's another huge, impact on them and how they behave as well.
Some of the emotional effects that we see are students becoming depressed, irritable. Sometimes they could have emotional outbursts such as anger. Sometimes it can become aggressive in the classroom. And so really we just need to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. Often what we'll look for is what's going on before those behaviors present and try to kind of figure out what is the root cause. As educators, we know that behavior is a form of communication, and so it's up to us to try to find out what those students are communicating because they have needs and they're asking for support. It might not just be in a typical way of asking for support. And so we'll look for some of those different cues that are occurring in the classroom and then start to kind of connect those dots.
Because everybody is anxious at one time or another. I mean, we all get in stressful situations and we get anxious. And so part of developing as a person is to learn how to control that anxiety so that you can perform as effectively as possible. Depression is another big one, and depression also can be reactive. You're in a situation that's sad, and depression can occur. When depression occurs, it's characterized by, it can be some just slowness, lack of energy, not feeling like getting up in the morning, wanting to sleep much longer than you usually sleep. It can, in its extreme form, be associated with suicidal ideation, thinking about committing suicide. And obviously that's a very extreme response, and one that is extremely important to talk about with someone who can help you deal with that.
Some of it is for all of us, I think, knowing that we're in this state of stress and that we may not be able to do things that we think we need to or we really want to, whether it's school or activities or things for our family, things like that. That, you know, being able to have a little compassion for ourselves, right? Like, this is a hard time, we're going through a hard experience. I might feel down, I might feel angry, I might feel sad. Like, it's all okay to have those feelings. I think also just, you know, if you are really struggling with feeling down or feeling anxious and it is impacting you or impairing you from doing things that you want to or interfering with your relationships or things like that, again, that it's okay to reach out for help. I know a lot of times people might feel like I just need to kind of think my way through it, or just, like, you know, keep on chugging through and everything's going to get better, which, you know, may often be the case, but that also it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to reach out. And given how hard of a time this has been, you know, many of us are in the same boat. Everybody has their own challenges. But yeah, I think we just want to help encourage people to not let the kind of stigma or sometimes the shame or other things people feel about saying, like, I'm having a hard time or I'm down or I'm anxious. Trying to not let that be the obstacle to getting some support that might make it easier for you to keep moving forward and open doors to your future that may have been closing by virtue of how you've been feeling.